right, folks. We are live on the Football Heads channel. This is our first live show. If you're joining us, welcome in. If you're joining us late, it's all good too. Um, got Monday Night Football on. Cowboys hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is not playing, so we do not have to worry about, if you're a Dallas fan, the Kyler Murray record in Jerry World, more like Kyler World. Jacoby Brissett getting the start tonight. However, the Cardinals, as of the launching of this live show, are up 10-0. And the Cowboys do have the ball. They're driving. They're near the 50. Right now, Baker Mayfield is on with Peyton and Eli. But what I'm going to do here is making sure all my settings are good. This is, like I said, our very first live shows. Thank you for tuning in. If you are, in fact, tuning in, I want to go and recap the games, week 9, the Sunday games, and we'll go back to Thursday. Why not? Which was what? November 2nd, 2025. I want to start, of course, with my Minnesota Vikings. You see my boy, J.J. McCarthy. I flipped up the jerseys this week. Normally I have Jefferson hanging here on the wall, the little shrine. I got my little award for screenwriting. And then over here, when I'm on the couch and we're shooting from another angle, usually I have my McCarthy jersey hanging up in the background over there, but I flipped them. Now Jefferson's over there, McCarthy's there. 1-0 since I flipped them. Can't complain. But I lamented. Caesar and I went live, or we didn't go live, but we recorded last week, did the picks. As is customary, I will not pick my Minnesota Vikings. He picked the Lions, and rightfully so. And I said, listen, the vibes are bad. We got smoked by the Chargers on Thursday night the previous week. Just looked lifeless. Terrible. Carson Wentz basically died on the field. And due to scheduling conflicts, we couldn't do the flagship show last week, and I intended to, I don't want to say make a public apology to Carson Wentz. I wouldn't go that far necessarily, but I did want to give him credit because the previous week we did a recording. I named him my bum of the week, and then he goes out there and dies on the field for my team. So I did want to say, you know what, Carson Wentz, garbage football player, but I respect him as a competitor, as a man, and as a football player who's willing to go out there and die on the field for his team. And the team he grew up rooting for is the same team that I root for, the same team I grew up rooting for. So I got to give Carson Wentz his due. We appreciate the contributions. At the end of the day, he went 2-3 as a starter, which in terms of backup quarterback play, you can do worse. So he kept us alive to some extent, but it did feel like we're probably going to get beat by the Lions, probably going to get smoked. And if you lose that game, the playoffs, you pretty much throw it out the window. They got a very tough schedule. We got the Ravens coming up this week. You still got another Bears game. The Bears look pretty good. They're 5-3 at the very least. You got to give them that. They're finding ways to win games, even if they're finding ways to lose games, but then they're finding ways to win the games that they found a way to lose, if that makes sense. We got the Packers twice. We got the Lions again. We got the Seahawks in Seattle. Who else? And then, you got Giants, Cowboys, Commanders. But if you lose that Lions game, you fall to 3-5. Playoffs probably ain't going to happen. So, but for me, I was not counting on them winning that game. It was just like, just show life. Be competitive. Be in the game. Bring your best fight to the Lions in their building. McCarthy, it's his third start. There's going to be ups and downs. There's still mechanical things to iron out. He's 22 years old. But, we all saw on that Monday night game against the Bears in week 1, the special sauce that McCarthy brings to the table. Like every first round quarterback should have some special sauce. Some like Drake May, he's got the size, the arm talent, he can make the plays. Caleb Williams can do the crazy Caleb stuff. Jaden Daniels, the VR headset and just playing the game fast and also having incredible athletic ability. And for McCarthy, it's always been the clutch factor, the just hyper competitiveness, the being at your best when your best is requiredness that he brings. So like let's see that, and let's just see steps toward getting better throughout the game. And we saw that, baby. We saw it in spades. The Vikings, other than the blowout of the Bengals when they were coming out the week after losing Joe Burrow, other than that game, the Vikings have not scored a touchdown in the first half. Well, with J.J. McCarthy back in the saddle, they went down and they scored a touchdown on their first two drives of the game in Detroit. Now, they're banged up in the secondary. They did get Brian Branch back. They got Terry and Arnold back. Still missing Dirty Kirby Joseph, which, as I maintain, sounds like an excellent Old West outlaw name. But still, you got Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil, Jack Campbell, studs up and down the defense. And obviously their offense is tremendous, a well-oiled machine. They went right down the field, scored a touchdown. Laporta just dragging dudes into the end zone. And I thought, here we go. But then the Vikings, they found a way. They went right down the field. McCarthy threw 2 touchdown passes in the first quarter. He added a touchdown run later in the game. And they managed to stay out in front of the Lions the whole game. Other than the Bengals game, the Vikings held a lead for 23 of a possible 360 minutes headed into this game. And they led virtually the entire game in Detroit against the Lions. You got to be impressed by that. I mean, obviously it wasn't perfect, and you see the haters and the losers and the Muppets out here saying, "Oh, you guys you're glazing a guy who threw for 143 yards. He went 14 for 25 passing. Relax." It's not about the counting stats. You want counting stats? Look at peak Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins was putting up 4,000-yard seasons. He'd throw for 35 touchdowns, keep the interceptions at a minimum. But when it was nut-cutting time, when you needed the man to step up and make a play, did he do it? He did in 2022 until the playoffs when he checked down to T.J. Hawkinson on a 4th and 8, as Vikings fans want to forget, but will not soon forget. You want counting stats. Obviously, you want counting stats, and you want clutch, and you want to win, and you want championships. You want Tom Brady. You want Peyton Manning. You want Patrick Mahomes. But again, this is the kid's 3rd start. I don't care if he threw for 143 yards. I don't care if he was 14 for 25. Did he look good? Was he in command of the situation? Did he look comfortable? Did he look poised? And when you needed him to make a play, did he make a play? The Lions go right down the field. They go up 7-0. It looks like they're just going to roll. It looks like they're going to drop 40 or 50 on you. You need to answer that. You can't then go 3 and out, punt it back, have the Lions go right down the field and go up 14-0. Then the game's basically over at that point, especially coming off the drubbing on Thursday night to the Chargers, the season going the way it's going with all the injuries and just not getting breaks, the TJ Hawkinson not catch against the Eagles that review overturned, and then last week the pick 6 with Isaiah Rodgers that would have put you out 7-0 against the Chargers, that gets overturned. You had one this week that I still think should have been a catch to Jalen Naylor. I think he had control pinning the ball against his side with his knee down and Terry and Arnold touching him. And then in real time, I thought it was a pick. When you watch the replay, I thought that's definitely a catch. They ruled it an interception. After replay, they confirmed that it was an interception. I don't necessarily agree, but in the end, it didn't really matter. But you're not getting calls going your way. It's just, there's vague reporting of, there's tension in the building, and the fan base wants Kwesi fired. They want Kevin O'Connell fired. They're panicking about the quarterback situation. We should have re-signed Darnold. We should have re-signed Daniel Jones. How'd that go for him this week? And none of that matters. You got a chance to go down 14-0, but J.J. McCarthy doesn't let that happen. He was aces on the opening drive, delivers a beautiful ball. Jefferson catches a one-handed touchdown, tie the game up. You come back, you score a touchdown in your next drive, And everyone, the fans watching at home, I'm jumping up and down because my boy is back in the saddle again. I bought that jersey on draft night. I am a Michigan fan. I know what this guy is capable of. I just want to keep seeing the steps toward the highest version of that as a professional. And then at the end of the game, some questionable play calling on the goal line with a chance to go up 14 there at the end. They end up with a field goal. They go up 10. The Lions do what they do. There's some questionable game and clock management from the Lions, basically just letting the clock run down to the 2-minute warning around midfield when like they had like almost 30 seconds to get a playoff. And like, because in that situation, like you want to score with time on, you want to score before the 2-minute warning. So then you get the extra clock stoppage. They had their 3 timeouts, but it's like you score, punt it away. The Vikings find a way to get a first down. You could still stop the clock and get the ball back. So like you want to be in a hurry up situation down 10 with 2.5 minutes left, and they just let it run down. But they get a deep shot to Jameson Williams, a little bit of a push off on Isaiah Rodgers on his helmet from Jameson Williams. Didn't get called. I didn't really see anyone complaining about it either. So it is what it is. Maybe it's one of those, it looks worse in slow-mo kind of things. It is what it is. Had the Vikings lost this game, I absolutely would be sitting on here crying about how they missed an obvious push off from Jameson Williams. But the Lions, they're gonna score. They're gonna put up points in some capacity, and they get the shot. Vikings get the ball back, and they had a really nice run play designed, and for whatever reason, everyone went one way. Jordan Mason went the other way. Some kind of mix up there, and McCarthy turns around to hand the ball off, and Mason's not there, and he kind of like spins around. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to run through this big gaping hole, and they get about 5 yards. Probably would have been a first down to Jordan Mason. Just it was a massive gaping hole. Like execution was excellent, good play call, good play design. Then they run it on second down. They get about a yard, so we're setting up 3rd and 4. And the Lions are burning their timeouts. They got 1 timeout left. And this is I complain about this league wide because you see this happen a lot. Like when defenses, they're playing lights out the whole game. They're aggressive. They're blitzing. They're mixing things up, mixing up different looks. And then they go into prevent defense, and they get ultra conservative. And offenses do the same thing. It's the equivalent of and we got a blocked punt here. Cowboys looking to recover this in the end zone for a touchdown, and they do. Huge play for the Dallas Cowboys. Get this to 10-7. Cardinals had a 10-point lead with possession. Going to punt the ball back to Dallas. Huge block punt. Cowboys right back in this game. Momentum swing. Huge. See if the Cardinals can answer back once the ball gets kicked back off. But I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But teams, it's like the free throw contests at the end of basketball games where everyone's playing, and I'm not going to sit here. This is a football podcast. I'm not going to complain about the modern day playing style of the NBA, but then it just turns into a free throw contest at the end. And it's kind of like that in football. You got to lead, and we got to burn as much clock as possible, and we got to force them to burn all their timeouts. And in my perspective, it's like the Lions are down 3. There's like 2 minutes left. They burn all their timeouts. They're going to get the ball back with enough time, not just to go down and get a field goal to tie, with enough time to go down the field, especially with the explosive weapons they have, the route running technicians like Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got plenty of time. The clock is not the issue. The timeouts are not the issue. You need to get a first down. And too many teams, they just run. And it's like, to me, if you're inside the 5, run and get a touchdown. Run duo left behind your best guys. I don't know why they did it in the Bengals game, and they scored 2 rushing touchdowns inside the 5 after like 2 or 3 straight years where they couldn't run the ball inside the 5 at all. And then Kevin O'Connell he just has to pass the ball, and then ran a naked bootleg, which I'm not going to litigate that whole issue. But anyway, we had a 10-point lead instead of a 14. But they get the ball back, 3rd down, 3rd and 4. If you get a first down, the game is over. They trusted McCarthy. The last throw of the game. Again, I talk about how setting the tone, coming out, matching the Lions with an opening drive touchdown, huge, key. You needed that. McCarthy showed that. He wasn't nervous. He was poised. He led the operation down the field, score that first touchdown. Now here at the very end of the game, you had a double-digit lead. You've had a lead the whole game, but now it's a little terse. You don't know, the situation's getting tense. It's a 3-point lead. The Lions, they just hit a deep shot to J-Mo. They get the ball back, and we know what the Lions can do. It's suddenly it's real dicey. 3rd and 4. Let's not be conservative. Don't run the ball. Don't call a pass play where it's like, okay, we'll call an easy little pass play and you get the ball out and put the ball in the guy's hands and see if you can make a guy miss and break a tackle and get the first down. We are dialing up a pass play. Everyone's going past the sticks. And we need you to make a difficult throw, a back shoulder throw to the number 3 receiver because they're going to double Jefferson. There's going to be eyes on Addison. There's going to be eyes on Hockenson. Back shoulder sideline throw to Jalen Naylor to get the first down, ice the game. And what happened? Put it on a dot. Put it on a dot. So all the people saying, oh, you're glazing the guy. He only had 143 passing yards. That's all he needed. That's all he needed. Did he make the throws when you needed him to make the throws? Did he come in clutch when you needed him to come in clutch? Did he make big boy, adult, professional, NFL, playoff, Super Bowl caliber throws in a situation where you needed it? And you needed his best. He gave you his best and put the ball on a dime. And that's what we're glazing. We're not glazing the stats. The stats don't matter. The only stats that matter are the wins and losses. And are you delivering when we need you specifically to deliver? And that's what J.J. McCarthy does. So very excited about that. Huge win. Vikings get back to 500. Still in last place in the division. It's going to be an uphill battle because you break it down. And we're going to do an episode this week and kind of pick the playoff fields now that we're at the midpoint of the season. But man, huge win. If you lose that game, it's pretty much over. And now it's like, well, you beat the Lions in Detroit. We could beat anyone. We could beat the Ravens next week. We could beat the Packers. We could beat the Packers twice. We could beat the Cowboys in Dallas. We could beat Seattle in Seattle. I'm not saying they will win all those games. It'd be great if they did. But if you beat Detroit in Detroit, that shows that you're capable of beating anyone. And then for the first time, they looked like the team that was built on paper that Vikings fans were, at the very least, cautiously optimistic about, if not just flat out excited. And the defense came to play, stifled the Lions all day long. They had, 17 points until about 2.5 minutes left in the game. Nobody does that to the Lions. And Jared Goff has killed our blitz. We were on a 5-game losing streak to the Lions. Last time the Vikings lost 5 straight to the Lions were the first 5 games that the Vikings ever played the Lions back in the early 60s. 5 straight. Have not beaten the Lions in Detroit in the Dan Campbell era. And they got it done, and they got it done in large part to finally effective blitzing against Jared Goff, because everyone knows if you disrupt Jared Goff early, where he can't get into a rhythm and just turn into a Terminator who's just slicing and dicing you the whole game, he is not accurate on the run. He can move, but he's not an accurate passer on the run. So if you can get pressure on him, if you can get him on the ground and you could do it early where you don't let him get into a rhythm, he becomes a little less accurate throughout the game. And as long as you keep getting pressure on him, they're not going to be able to move the ball like they could. There's some balls where, maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown should have caught that first down, but the ball's a little off target because Jared Goff's not in a rhythm, and Amon-Ra still normally catches that ball, but he's not in a rhythm either because the offense as a whole hasn't been in a rhythm. So I thought whatever Brian Flores did, and I know he sent Eric Wilson on, I believe, 18 blitzes, and probably 15, 16 of them were straight up the A-gap. Javon Hargrave, welcome back to the party, baby. I was very excited after the week 1, looked like a great free agent signing, and then it got to the point where he was damn near benched, and he was getting moved off the spot. in the run game. They held Jahmyr Gibbs to, I believe, 25 yards rushing. This is a guy who had 160 total yards in each of the 2 games that we played them last year. Jahmyr Gibbs has destroyed us. In fact, he has destroyed us so bad that I did tiered betting on Jahmyr Gibbs to have rushing, whatever his over was. I think it was 72.5, maybe 77.5, plus 80 plus, 90 plus, 100 plus. I'm just assuming he's going to gash the hell out of us the whole damn day. And he did virtually nothing. In fact, he was, despite doing nothing in conjunction with doing nothing as a runner and in the passing game, allowed 7 pressures of Jared Goff as a back in the backfield running pass protection. So one of Jahmyr Gibbs' worst games, if not his worst game as a professional. David Montgomery did not fare much better. He had one really nice run, but that run ended with Blake Cashman punching the ball out and the Vikings recovering it, which was reminiscent of the Vikings-Lions game from last year in Minnesota, where they forced a fumble. I believe Ivan Pace Jr. ran it back for a touchdown. We took a lead late, and then the Lions we couldn't complete the pass on 3rd down that would have run out the clock or allowed us to run out the clock. And then the Lions go down the field and steal the game from us at the end. But Eric Wilson played great. Javon Hargrave played great. The secondary played strong for the most part. Harrison Smith had a nice key 3rd down pass deflection coming in off a blitz. Jalen Redmond, man, Big Red is a big problem for offenses league-wide. He has been probably our best defensive player this season thus far. Excellent find for everyone that wants to clown Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. Kwesi went out and found whoever gave him the tip, don't matter. He went out and he acquired Jalen Redmond, who has been a stud. Blake Cashman had a monster game. I believe he had a 90 PFF rating, which I'm not a big PFF guy. But when the PFF ratings are in favor of whatever I like or I care about or something that I've said previously, then I will report it on the show. But yeah, just everyone had a monster game. I felt like Jonathan Grenard was everywhere as he's been all season long. Finally got a sack. Van Ginkel back in the lineup. He was disruptive. So whatever tweaks Brian Flores made, I know they blitzed, I believe, 64% of the time. And they have had a heavy blitz rate on Jared Goff in the past. And man, it just, for whatever reason, it just worked like a treat this time, and it has not worked at all in the past. So shouts out to B-Flow and the boys on defense. Just great stuff and a huge win to save the season. I'm not worried about the Lions. The Lions play Washington next week, who we'll get to that, but Jaden Daniels not playing. Marcus Mariota is in, and I expect the Lions to beat the ever-living dog shit out of the Washington Commanders next week. They'll bounce back, and then they got a big showdown against the Eagles the week after that, so that's going to be a fun game to watch. But for me, as a Vikings fan, had to touch on them first. You love to see it. You love to see it. The season is saved after last week. It's doom and gloom. Everyone's going to get fired, blow up the team. It's terrible. They suck. They're not going to win another game. This week, big win, and now they might go undefeated. Not really, but they are at the very least in the mix. It's going to be tough, though, but stay in the division. An interesting day in the NFC North for sure, because the Packers lose another one. They're now 5-2-1, and they lost to the Panthers, who the Panthers are 5-4. So like we cannot sit here and scoff at the Panthers anymore. But just generally speaking, like you think about the Packers and their expectations, slowly building with Jordan Love over the last couple of years. They got a playoff win with Jordan Love a couple years ago. Did they get 2 playoff wins or just the one? I think it was just the one, right? And then the NFC Championship game was San Francisco and Detroit. But you go get Micah Parsons. Josh Jacobs is running hard. You draft Matthew Golden. You know, a lot of people talking Packers Super Bowl front-running team, and then your 2 losses this year are to the Browns and the Panthers, and you tied with the Cowboys. So I don't know what it is. The Packers, it does feel a bit like they're playing down to their competition as the Cardinals drive, throw a ball into the end zone. Trey McBride looking for a flag. No flags coming, but the Cardinals here, a minute 41 left in the first half. Cardinals knocking on the doorstep. They're in the red zone about the 15-yard line, looking to go up. In their eyes, 17-7, possibly 13-7. Nice response here to the blocked punt. Um, Cowboys offense got to get something going here because they're only 7 points on that block punt recovered for a touchdown. But and their defense obviously needs to get something going. Are they going to get something going? Probably not, because we're halfway through the season and their defense has been god awful the entire time. Can't stop the run. 9-yard gain on 2nd and 10 to Dortch, set up a 3rd and 1. But the Packers are habitually playing down to their competition, and Jordan Love is still having the same issues. When Jordan Love is clicking, and he started the season on a monster run of no interceptions at all, and he's playing lights out football, I think dating back to last season. But then he just has these stretches where he throws these bozo balls, like the interception against the Browns that allowed them to come back and win that game. Let's see. Cardinals get the first down, pushing, going to be stopped at about the 1.5-yard line, set up 1st and goal. 52 seconds left. Looks like a timeout here, probably. I think it's the Cowboys taking a timeout to have some clock left to work with. And we're on a split screen. So the Packers, I don't know, Jordan Love, he's so talented, and you see him do these things where it's like he clearly learned from Aaron Rodgers, who learned from Brett Favre how to do the off-platform stuff, the stuff that nobody else can do. And he's so supremely talented. Like, I have futures bets on him winning the MVP this year. Like, he is a fantastic football player, but he just has these moments. Like, there was one, it should have been a pick. They were down 13-6. And he scrambles around. He's doing the Fran Tarkenton, Russell Wilson stuff, looping this way, that way, coming back around, throws across his body, across the field. And there's nobody with a Packers jersey in sight. Hits a Panthers defender on the chest. He drops it in the end zone. But it's stuff like that where it's just like Aaron Rodgers would do this stuff, but he didn't turn the ball over. Brett Favre did this stuff, and he turned the ball over at an insane rate. But it was in an era where guys were throwing more interceptions than they do now. It was just a different game back then. But it's like year after year. And again, it's only Jordan Love's 3rd year as the starter. So there's still time. He's 27 years old. I'm not writing the guy off, but I feel like with the Micah Parsons move and the expectations this year and the experience they've gotten as a playoff team in his first 2 years as a starter, this was the year. He's 27. Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl at 27. Brett Favre won a Super Bowl at 27. And, the prophecy, it's, Jordan Love, now he's 27, that he's going to fulfill his destiny. And they still might, but I think you're hoping to see less of that stuff. And it does take time. Like Josh Allen, as recently as 2-3 years ago, was still he was peak Josh Allen. He's an MVP candidate, but he would still turn the ball over. And we have a touchdown here. Looks like Jacoby Brissett on a QB sneak. Cardinals up 16-7. Extra point pending. 49 seconds left. Dak warming up on the sidelines. See if Cowboys can get into Brandon Aubrey field goal range here with 49 seconds left. Try and cut this back down to a 1-score game before the half. I believe the Cardinals get the ball after the half as well. So double dip opportunity here for the Cardinals as well if they can get a stop. But I think you want to see Jordan Love start to clean this up. But again, Josh Allen, it took him a while. Josh Allen had a good 3 or 4 years of really high level Pro Bowl, All-Pro, MVP caliber play where he was still turning the ball over a little bit more than you probably would like. And then the last couple years, he's cleaned that up entirely. So it's still out in front of Jordan Love. We can't write him off in that regard. But in a season like this where the Packers kind of went all in, I think Packers fans were hoping like, okay, this is the year. This is going to be the year that he kind of takes that next step, cleans up some of the mistakes a little bit, and don't throw the game away. Like if Jordan Love was playing real high level clean football and not just high level football with a bit of variance in there, I mean, they might be undefeated right now. It's possible. So it's a tough loss for them, but probably a tougher loss because they are still on top of the division. Is Tucker Kraft done for the year, torn ACL? Brutal loss for them. He's been probably their best weapon thus far. Yeah, I mean, you hate to see it. Obviously, as a Vikings fan, it makes life a little bit easier for my Vikings, but you never want to see a great player go down because he's just been playing lights out ball, man. He's gradually gotten better year over year, but this year it was like this dude is an all-pro tight end now. He's their best weapon. He's kind of the bailout option for Jordan Love. That you could look at it that way, is like when you have Tucker Kraft playing the way he's playing, that's license for Jordan Love to take less risks in some of those situations. Instead of trying to make something happen and throwing a bozo ball, you say, like, let me check it down to Tucker Kraft, let him make some moves, break some tackles. Like that can help lead to an evolution in Jordan Love's play in terms of cleaning up some of those mistakes. So you lose him for the year. That's a huge loss. I mean, they have a super crowded and talented wide receiver room. They certainly have the weapons to maintain being a high-level offense. Josh Jacobs in the backfield, obviously. But, I mean, the season Tucker Kraft was having, it's like, if you're a Packers fan, you hate to see that happen. And there's no way it doesn't impact your offense in some capacity. I don't think it makes them, incapable of winning a Super Bowl now, but it certainly makes life more difficult for the offense moving forward. Then staying in the NFC North, the Chicago Bears, man. They're 5-3. They've won as many games as they won last year. They look like a much improved football team. They have competent coaching, finally. They're top 5 in offensive yards per game. You see some steps forward from Caleb Williams, still adjusting to the new system. It's going to take time. But man, 5-3. I struggle with this team because I don't want to, like, as a Vikings fan, I always want to hate on the Bears because I hate the Bears and I want to see them fail always. But as a person who talks about football on the internet, I don't want to just Kavontae Turpin with a nice return gets the ball to the Cowboys 40, maybe the 39. Almost turned the corner. So 41 seconds left. Cowboys are going to be in decent position. I mean, with Brandon Aubrey, all you got to do is get this thing to like midfield, set up a 68-yard field goal. Like I ain't going to be surprised if Cam Little just set a record yesterday with a 68-yard field goal. I wouldn't be surprised if Brandon Aubrey's about to break this thing in about 35, 40 seconds. Let's go live here. I don't know if there's anyone joined in live, but if you are here with me live, Dak drops back, takes the snap, escapes the pocket right, throws off his back foot, throwaway out of bounds. Set up 2nd and 10 with 35 seconds left. But the Bears, man, I don't want to come across like I'm just being a hater because I'm a Vikings fan. I don't know what to make of them because it's like they're 5-3. They definitely look better than they looked last year. That you see improvements, you see them getting better, but they take these games where like you should just win the game and they find ways to lose to then find ways to win. Like I think about the Raiders game, they should have lost that game. The way it played out, they should have lost that game. Cowboys get a completion to Ferguson. About an 8-yard gain up to the 46-yard line, 18, 17, 16. Dak drops back, throws to Ferguson again. He's out of bounds. The clock's going to keep winding. They have no timeouts. They're running back. You can see if they can spike it here. It's a first down. There's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They get the ball spiked with 2 seconds left. We are going to set up a 69-yard field goal here for Brandon Aubrey. Can Brandon Aubrey break the record? Did we just make an incredible prediction here on the show? Literally 45 seconds ago, I said Brandon Aubrey might break Cam Little's record here in about 30 seconds. And here we are. So I'm going to stay with this, and we'll get back to the Bears in a second. This dude, Brandon Aubrey, is a dog, man. He approaches kicking like most kickers approach. If you listen to him talk, I'm not a kicking expert, but you listen to him talk. They're listing as a 68-yarder, so he has a chance here to tie. And did they blow it dead? And he's wide left. Looked like the play clock hit 0. They didn't blow it dead, but it doesn't matter either way. He misses it. 17-7 here at the half in favor of the Cardinals. Cardinals get the ball after the second half. But I don't know. The Bears, they have these games where they're playing inferior opponents and they're winning the game, and then they slip and they just start slipping. And then it flips and you're like, you get to the point where, no, the other team should be winning this game. The Raiders should have beat them. The Bengals should have beat them yesterday, despite the fact that it, like, against all, like, you look at the chart, whatever it is, where it's like, 3.8% chance of winning. The Bengals must have been down like 0.02% at some point, and then they come all the way back. They take a 1-point lead late, and then the Bengals do what they do. Just a lifeless, listless, hapless organization, the Cincinnati Bengals. But the Bears, I don't know why they keep doing this. They keep putting themselves in worse positions than they should be in. And then they find a way to pull it out. So, like, on one hand, you're like, why are you guys, like, letting these games slip away? But on the other hand, it's like, well, but then you're finding ways to win them. So there's value to that of, like, the process of a young team learning how to win. So I don't know. I really don't know what to make of the Bears, but they're 5-3. Can't argue with that. They look better than they did last year. The coaching is demonstrably better. Caleb Williams is taking steps forward. Rome Odunze, I don't believe, had a catch yesterday, but he's been a stud all year long. I don't know. It's worth monitoring the Bears. Like, is this something they're going to figure out this year? Are they going to keep kind of, I don't even know if it's playing with your food against inferior opponents or just like, it's because like the Vikings beat them and it was kind of the same situation. The Bears were in control of the game for most of the game, and then they just like went to sleep. And the Vikings came back and beat them in the fourth quarter. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with the Bears, but the Bengals, man, very few things bring me more joy than watching the Bengals bungle week after week. I like the Bengals theoretically. Like, I grew up with Chad Johnson. I love Chad Johnson. I loved those teams. The Bengals, their uniforms are cool. They've been a hapless organization that they're lovable underdogs at various points in time. Even with Andy Dalton and AJ Green, they were an exciting team to watch, and they just gotten to the point where it's like the ownership is a joke, and it's frustrating because it's like if you're Woody Johnson and you own the Jets and like you're like this is like a side hobby for you. It's like, oh, I'd like to own a football team. I run Johnson & Johnson, a big pharmaceutical company. It'd be cool to have a football team on the side, and you just kind of run your organization into the ground because you don't know what you're doing. Or like Stephen Ross in Miami, some of the Bidwells with the Cardinals. But like, if you're Mike Brown, your dad was Paul Brown. Your dad was Paul Brown. Like, how are you running a Mickey Mouse organization? It doesn't make sense. Your dad was Paul Brown. How are you not approaching this the way like the Ursays approach the Colts? Teams like that, like, you have a legacy here, dude. Like, you are part of football royalty. The Maras with the Giants, the Rooneys with the Steelers, like these are your actual like historical contemporaries from a football standpoint. How the hell are you running this organization into the ground? And then Duke Tobin, nobody talks about Duke Tobin as general manager. That guy is an absolute buffoon. It's ridiculous what they've done. Just the complete mismanagement of assets and resources of that team is a fireable offense. He should have been fired years ago at this point. And then Zach Taylor, I say it every single week on the show. He looks like a Bob's Burgers character. They cut to him on the sideline, and you feel like, oh, we're watching this game on Fox. They just accidentally cut to a rerun of Bob's Burgers. Like, he's just a goof. He's not good. Oh, you got to go get a young offensive genius mind. Like, is Zach Taylor a young offensive genius mind? I know we're all obsessed with the whiz kids and the Wonder Boys and the boy geniuses. It's like, okay, Kyle Shanahan grew up as a small child learning football from a Hall of Fame head coach and Mike Shanahan. You want to call Kyle Shanahan a genius? Okay. Sean McVay is a football psycho. You look in the man's eye, the man doesn't blink for 3.5 hours on Sunday. He's got veins popping out of his neck from angles that don't even make sense from a physiological perspective. Okay? He is a sicko. And he came up under Shanahan, and he has demonstrated a clear willingness to evolve and grow. And I don't know if he's a genius, but he might be. At the very least, he's a fucking excellent offensive mind, and he's demonstrated it. Kevin O'Connell comes from that tree, but this is a man who played in the league. He played as a professional quarterback. He knows how to lead a team of men. Maybe not as a professional quarterback where he was mostly a backup, but certainly in college, he led teams, so he knows how to command the room. And he also came up as a backup to Tom Brady, coached by Bill Belichick, and learned from those guys. Even Mike McDaniel, at the very least, I don't know, he doesn't look like a leader of men to me, but he's a mad scientist. Like, he cooked up all those crazy run schemes with the 49ers. Like, what has Zach Taylor done? Who is Zach Taylor? He's just like, he's a milquetoast white boy. Like, what? Get rid of everybody involved with the Bengals other than Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and sorry, T. Higgins. It's purely contractual, but trade him so you have some money and some assets to build up the defense. Just do it. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's wrong with these people. Where do we want to go from here? I guess I'll go to another team that I enjoy watching them fail, and that's the Miami Dolphins, another team with just hapless ownership, a bum at general manager who was just fired this past week. And yeah, I know he was with the team for 25 years. Oh, after 25 years, they let him go. Well, guess what? He mismanaged the entire roster. You paid Tua Tagovailoa, what, 53 and a half, something like that, $1 million a year, where his brains are turning into scrambled eggs because he's had so many concussions, and he needs a mad scientist coach to get him to high-level play. Like, is that, like, you want to pay Tua $40 million? Okay, we can talk. And then you pay two receivers, the same. You're paying a quarterback and you're paying two receivers, top tier money, and you have nobody on defense except the young players that you've drafted. And they have some good pass rushers that they're now trading away. They traded Jalen Phillips today to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 3rd-round pick. Bradley Chubb has basically been a ghost since he got traded there. I don't know how Chop Robinson is doing. But, like, you let Christian Wilkins go. And now Christian Wilkins isn't even on a team right now for other issues, but like when he was with the Dolphins, like this is a pass rushing, planet-sized, gap-devouring, mutant nose tackle, the anchor of your defense, and you let him go because you couldn't afford to pay him because you paid all these offensive weapons. And then the defense falls apart. They let linebackers go. They let safeties go. They let corners go. And it's just like, oh my God, the mismanagement of rosters on these terrible organizations. It's just, it's maddening to the point where I take genuine joy in watching them fail because they're just miserable and they deserve it. The fans don't deserve it. The Dolphins fans, they showed two guys wearing full suits patterned with the Dolphins logo and orange fedoras. And I said to a friend of mine, I said, what do you think was going through those guys' minds when they were suiting up before the game to go watch this Dolphins team, knowing they were going to get curb stomped by the Baltimore Ravens? And they got curb stomped by the Baltimore Ravens. Wasn't even like, it's not even like they went up and down the field the whole day. Like, they just came out and it's like, all right, we're just going to couple quick touchdowns, put our foot on your throat, and force you to just cry into a towel for the next 2 hours and 45 minutes. Just terrible. But the Ravens are back. I said it when they were 1-3. I said the Ravens, they're going to claw back. When they were 1-4, I said the Ravens are going to claw back. When they were 1-5, I said if they win this next game, they're going to claw back. And they won that next game. And then they won another game. And now, unfortunately, at 3-5, they go to Minnesota to play my Vikings next week. So the hope is that they will lose that game and then continue to claw back. Because I do have a streak intact. 2 years ago, before the show was even a show, I told all my friends who watch football, I said the Dolphins had the best record in the league. The Bills were kind of floundering a little bit. They fired their offensive coordinator, installed Joe Brady, and I said, Dolphins are going to go in the tank, and the Bills are going to win this division. And they did. And then last year, I came on this show, and I said every single week, the Bucks kept losing. The Falcons at one point were 6-2. The Bucks were losing. Mike Evans was hurt. Chris Godwin was hurt. Emeka Egbuka was at Ohio State. But you watched the games, and it just felt like Baker Mayfield. The phrase I always said was he's just keeping the fire burning. They almost beat the Chiefs. They're playing top-tier teams, and they're taking them right up to the wire, and they just can't pull it off. I said, once they get their weapons back, the Bucks are going to claw back, and they're going to win this division. And they did. And this week I said the same thing. I said the Steelers, I'm not sold. They're a gravitational pull to 10-7. You look at the Ravens' schedule. I said last week, after the Vikings got curb stomped by the Chargers on Thursday night, even then, when I was at the lowest I've been on the Vikings in years, I said the Vikings are the hardest game on the Ravens' schedule in the next month and a half. And I think the Vikings stink. Now, the Vikings bounce back, obviously huge against the Lions, so that game looks even tougher, but it's still the same thing. Every other team that the Ravens play in the next month and a half, they're softies. Ravens going to win that division, man. Just hopefully they lose next week. Please. Where do I want to go from here? I guess some quick hitters. The Jags, the Broncos, the Chargers all get ugly wins. The Chargers-Titans game is the only game I didn't have eyes on. For whatever reason, the CBS app just does not want to work, or streaming it on my laptop just doesn't want to. It never wants to work for me. And I have my Vikings on the big TV, and then the TV under that, I put the quad box on, Sunday Ticket, and then there's a TV on the left with a PlayStation hooked up to it. That does not, you can't get the CBS app on that. So I have my laptop hooked up to an old TV on the right side. A lot of TVs. And that's what I usually, I'll stream Fox Sports and CBS on that. And just for whatever reason, the last couple of weeks, just CBS does not want to let me stream the game. So I did not have eyes on the Chargers-Titans, but I talked to a correspondent, diehard Chargers fan, and he told me it was ugly. And the final score 27-20 against, maybe the worst team in football suggests it was probably ugly. Joe Alt goes down. They just announced today he's having season-ending ankle surgery. So that's tough. I mean, the Chargers, when Harbaugh got hired, I talked to my friend, the Chargers fan. I said, Jim Harbaugh is the man. But the Chargers' ability to year after year for 20 plus years now to find a way to charger is so strong. What's going to win out? Harbaugh harbaughing or the Chargers chargering? And thus far, I mean, he's pulled them out a little bit, but the Chargers are still charging, man. It's just injuries in the trenches nonstop. An inability to win in the playoffs, at least, it's a one-game sample size last year against the Texans, who have an excellent defense, so you got to give him that. But I mean, Justin Herbert throwing 3 picks all season, then he throws 4 in the playoff game. Like that's Chargers charging. Like as much as I love to clown on Herbert for not getting it done when it counts the most, like him throwing 4 interceptions is not a Herbert problem. That is the just dark cloud that hangs over the Chargers organization for reasons that only the football gods can answer. So I won't even attempt it. But either way, they get a win. Cost them Joe Alt in the process. They're 5-3. They're still in the thick of the AFC West. The Broncos get a win. They're 6-2. They sit on top of the AFC West. But again, not the prettiest win. They knocked C.J. Stroud out with a concussion on what felt like a very dirty hit, just a forearm shiver to C.J. Stroud's chest as he's sliding and just knocking his head back into the dirt. But the Texans, again, great defense. So I'm not going to sit here and harp on the Broncos for winning ugly. It was an ugly win where it's ugly because you're playing a team that has a hard-nosed defense. And then the Jags, the Raiders stink, and the Jags should be good enough to just flat out beat them, and it required overtime, which I still hate that. If you go down the field and get a touchdown in overtime, just end the game. If you want to make it not, oh boy, here we go. Number 14 for the Cardinals running free down the field, down to the 30. Man, the Cowboys pass defense, literally, we're 17, 18, 19 seconds into the third quarter, and the Cardinals are already in field goal range. You're letting Jacoby Brissett, no offense to Jacoby Brissett, you're letting Jacoby Brissett just dice you up. There's just nobody's even close. He catches the ball short of the Dallas Star and runs for another 25 yards untouched. Fire Eberflus. Where was I? Where were we? Oh yeah, the Jags in overtime. Just give me sudden death overtime. If someone kicks a field goal and you want to open it up, and now running wide open, Bam Knight down the field, gets the ball inside the 10, setting up 1st and goal for the Cardinals. My friend Adam is probably having a Cowboys-induced meltdown right now, and he is getting a bunch of all caps texts. But we need sudden death back, at least in the regular season. I don't need to see the Jags and the Raiders play virtually an entire overtime period in the regular season when the Jags go down the field and score a touchdown on their first possession of overtime. Just end the game. Come on. But the Raiders stink. Pete Carroll is going to die on the Geno Smith hill, and that's his choice to make. But the Jags, you got to do better than that. You got to just come out and beat a bad team. If you want to be a playoff team in an AFC that's got a ton of talent, I mean, the Bills are a wild card team right now. The Chiefs are 5-4, and they're not even in the playoffs if the playoffs started today. If you're the Jags and you want to make the playoffs in the AFC, you got to just come out and handle business against a team like the Raiders. You can't have it. They get a win. As you know, on this channel, I will continue to pick the Jags. Duval. But we got to do better than that. But Duval is Duvaling, and Broncos country, let's ride. But ugly wins for that trio of teams. Pats, the Patriots, they get an ugly win. They survived the Falcons being the Falcons. Falcons storm back, look like they're about to tie the game, and then just can't get the extra point, and they lose by 1. Because the Falcons are the Falcons look like juggernauts when they play the Vikings and the Bills, and they look terrible against everybody else. I don't know who their third win was against off the top of my head, but good Lord, I don't know. They finally got a pass rush. I love it. And here's a touchdown to Trey McBride. Cardinals 23-7, extra point pending. Or no, they got the extra point. No, extra point pending. Excuse me. Damn. The Cowboys defense, man, they got Jacoby Brissett looking like Joe Montana out here, dude. Just awful. Just awful. Terrible. But the Falcons, you got Michael Penix Jr., who I love, Bijan Robinson, who, as we know, I have always been the biggest fan of Bijan Robinson. And I sat up here before the season and said, this guy's top 3 running back, easy. If you know, you know. Kyle Pitts, of course, he's going to break out this year. Drake London had a couple monster catches in this game. They draft Billy Bowman Jr., who I love. They draft Xavier Watts, who I love. You got some interesting linebacker weapons. You add a couple young pass rushers. Like, you have the pieces. I like Raheem Morris as a coach. Why are we this bad? Why can we beat the Bills and the Vikings, and then we're this bad? Like, hapless. You came back. You could have tied the game. You had all the momentum, and you miss an extra point, and there goes the momentum, and you lose the game. Patriots continue to roll. They are 7-2. Very soft schedule. I want to. Obviously, they beat the Bills in Buffalo, which is an impressive win. But the Buffalo Bills, we know, have some holes on the defense. I'm not buying all the Patriots stock for this season. And I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to the championship game, they're going to the Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to be the case, but they're certainly ahead of schedule. I liked them coming into the year. I liked them as like a 8-win team, maybe 9-win team, because I like Vrabel a lot, and I thought that was an excellent hire. But I mean, they're handling business. You can't take it away from them. You got to play the games on the schedule. If you're playing a soft schedule, that's not your fault. Take care of business. They are taking care of business. What I really want to see, I want to see the Colts and the Pats in the playoffs. I think they have a game coming up in the next few weeks. I want to say, let me look this up as we're live here, and I'm burning airtime. But I want to see the Colts and the Pats in the playoffs because, like, if you're around my age, you grew up watching Peyton Manning and the Colts and Tom Brady and the Patriots playing guaranteed every single year because they both always won their division. And usually twice a year because then they would play each other in the championship game in the playoffs. Almost every single year. And I just think it would be cool to see that again because, like, I don't think anyone expected either of those teams really to make the, there's some steam behind the Patriots, but I don't think anyone really expected either one of those teams to be like legitimate playoff contenders. And now here they are. So, but they're both exciting young teams. You got an exciting young quarterback in Drake May. You got the Daniel Jones resurgence. Jonathan Taylor, big John Taylor, just doing big John Taylor things out there every single week. They got a fun defense led by my guy Cam Beasley, keeping things exciting on the defensive side. The Patriots defense is playing really well. Stephon Diggs winding back the clock. He's playing good ball. Maybe I'm making this up. Maybe the Colts and the Pats don't play this season. I swear they do. I'm trying to find this without wasting airtime here. And I'm about to give up. There's only a few weeks left. Let me keep scrolling through here. But I just think it would be cool to see those two teams play in the playoffs. Like, renew that old rivalry in the playoffs where it counts. And I guess they don't play each other. I just think that'd be cool. But the Colts, though, man. Colts lose, and Daniel Jones looked bad. 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles, 2 of them lost here as Schoonmaker gets a first down for the Cowboys. But here's the thing. There's the temptation is there to say, oh, Daniel Jones, he turned back into a pumpkin, and this is what it's going to be, and the magic carpet ride's over. But you got to look at it like this. Colts turned the ball over 5 times, and they lost by 1 score. to the Steelers. And this is not the first time that this has happened to the Steelers. The Steelers beat the Patriots, if you remember, is the last game that the Patriots lost this year, where they turned the ball over, I believe, 5 times as well. They were just fumbling it all over the place, and the Steelers only beat them by 1 possession. If you beat a team by 1 possession where you force 5 turnovers, I think we know who the better team actually is. And it's any given Sunday here as Dak completes the ball to Jake Ferguson down to the Cardinals' 33.5-yard line. Cowboys still got some fight in them. Get a touchdown here. It's a 10-point game. Plenty of time to go. 11.5 left in the third quarter. But if you force 5 turnovers on any given Sunday and you only win by 1 possession and it's an upset win, I think the other team is still better than you. The Steelers, again, they're a gravitational pull to 10 wins. They are in a great position to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to win that division. I do think the Ravens are going to win that division as Javonte Williams runs for a first down to set up a 1st and 10. Maybe, I think, in the red zone. Let's see. Ooh, nice spin move in the backfield from Javonte Williams. Hits this hole hard. Little over pursuit there by the OG Calais Campbell. 1st and 10 from the Cardinals 17. Handoff to Javonte. Gets about 2 yards down to the 15-yard line. But the Steelers, man, I would not be shocked if they don't even make the playoffs this year. Let me look up their schedule and let's run through that real quick. I did this the other day and I came away kind of thinking like, oof. No, I came away thinking like the Ravens definitely gonna win this division. They're 2 games back right now, but they play the Steelers twice and they have a much softer schedule. The Steelers got the Chargers, the Bills. They got 2 games against the Ravens. They got the Lions. Now they got some winnable games. They got the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Browns. They have a game in Chicago. We'll see how that goes. But like, I ain't gonna be surprised if Steelers drop Chargers, Bills, at least 1 Ravens game, a Lions game, or the Lions game. That's gonna put them at 7 losses. So I mean, like 9-8 for the Steelers is not unfeasible. Like if they split with the Ravens, lose to the Bills, lose to the Chargers, lose to the Lions, that puts them at 10-7 with wins against the Bengals, the Bears, the Ravens, the Dolphins, and the Browns. I don't know, man. I don't know if the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. Because, again, like they win these games. They beat the Patriots 21-14. Patriots have 5 turnovers. They beat the Colts 27-20. Colts have 5 turnovers. If you Conversely, the Vikings beat the Bengals. They forced 5 turnovers, and they beat them 48-10. If you force 5 turnovers, you're supposed to beat a team 48-10. You're not supposed to beat a team 21-14 if you force 5 turnovers. So call me a hater. I don't believe in the Steelers. I like Aaron Rodgers. I like Mike Tomlin. I like pieces on that defense. I like DK Metcalf, but to me, the Steelers are they're no better than a 9 or 10 win team. They're not. And if they win 10 games and they hold on and they win the division and the Ravens just can't claw back, Dak gets sacked on 2nd and goal back to the 15-yard line. That's rough. But even if the Steelers win the division, they're not going to win a playoff game. It's going to be, 10 years in a row that they get bounced in the 9 years in a row, maybe? 2016, I want to say, is the last time they won a playoff game. So 9 years in a row, bounced in the first round. That's rough, man. Where do we go after this? Let's talk about the NFC West, because the NFC West is very fascinating to me. The Cardinals here, obviously, trending toward a victory to get themselves to 3-5. I think you could debate who's the best team or the best division in football. Is it last year's best division, the NFC North, because every team is 500 or above, or is the NFC West where you got the Cardinals at the basement, but 3 6-win teams. You got the Rams, the Seahawks at 6-2 at the top of the division. The Rams at 6-2. The Niners with all their injuries and their impressive rookie defensive end. He's out for the year with a torn ACL. Nick Bosa's out for the year. Fred Warner's out for the year. They got all the receiver injuries. Brock Purdy's still out. George Kittle finally came back last week. And the Cowboys will settle for a 26-yard field goal to cut it to 24-10. 7:15 left in the third quarter. If you're watching this live, don't go turn on the Manning cast because Charles Barkley's about to be on. In fact, I might wrap this up so I can watch Charles Barkley. You gotta love Chuck. But the Niners, they just keep finding ways to win. They just keep finding ways to win. And if you look at their schedule, this is where I said the Niners are not going to lose, or they're not going to win less than 11 games. They got the Rams next week. They beat them earlier in the year, if I remember correctly, in overtime. So they got the Rams next week. Then they got the Cardinals, the Panthers, who are 5-4. We got to give the Panthers some respect. The Browns, the Titans, the Colts, Bears, Seahawks. So that's some tough games right there. But they're sitting at 6 wins. If you beat the Cardinals, that's 7. You beat the Browns, that's 8. Titans, that's 9. Panthers, they're better. They're at home, 10. Can you beat the Seahawks, Bears, Colts, or Rams? You need one of those 4 to be an 11-win team and pretty much guarantee that you're making the playoffs. But even if they don't, it's a 10-win team. The games are there on the schedule. And then conversely, you look at the Seahawks, they got the Cardinals next week. Then they got the Rams, and they get the Titans, the NFC West, much in the same way the NFC North last year benefited from beating up on the AFC South. Seahawks, so they get the Titans, then they get the Vikings, Falcons, Colts, Rams again, Panthers, and 49ers. So a little bit tougher of a schedule. And let me find the Rams here. See what the Rams schedule looks like. And Rams sitting at 6-2 right now. Tied for the division lead, but in second place due to tiebreakers. They got the 49ers, Seahawks, Bucks, Panthers, Cardinals again, Detroit Lions, Seahawks, Falcons, and Cardinals. So they get a couple relative softies at the end, but I mean, you got 2 Seahawks games, you got another 49ers game, a Bucks game, a Lions game, the Panthers, we'll see how that goes. So I feel like the Rams have the toughest schedule of the 3. So I don't know, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because again, you have a lot of these divisional matchups still left to go. The Rams and Seahawks play twice. The Rams and 49ers play another time. And then the 49ers and Seahawks play one more time. And the Niners beat the Seahawks back in week 1. That's a tough division, man. I little spoiler for when we do our mid-season playoff prediction show, but based on the schedules, I think it's gonna be tough for anyone to catch those NFC teams because the Packers and Lions are gonna make the playoffs, the Eagles are gonna make the playoffs, the Bucks are gonna make the playoffs, and then you got the Panthers, the Bears, the Vikings as wild card contenders. But can any of those teams, are they going to catch those NFC West teams? It's a tougher schedule. If you're an NFC North team, you have a tougher schedule this year. You got to play the Ravens. You got to play the Steelers. You got to play the Eagles. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out. But the NFC West just tough. I keep waiting for the Niners to falter with all these injuries, and they just keep getting more injuries, but they just keep finding ways to win. And I mean, that's good coaching. It just is what it is. But as it sits right now, again, as a spoiler for our mid-season playoff prediction show, I like those 3 NFC West teams, man. I just think it's the team that I would considered most likely to fall back down to earth as Bam Knight runs for another first down on first down. Oh, no, it's not Bam Knight. Is that Dortch? God, the Cowboys defense is terrible. The Cardinals already have the ball at the Cowboys 40. Just awful. Just absolutely dreadful. Only talking point left in our Week 9 recap here was Sunday Night Football. The Seahawks beat the absolute piss out of the Washington Commanders, going from Washington State to Washington, D.C., and I guess it wasn't a first down. It was in inches, and now they get a first down. Just from pillar to post, just beat the dog shit out of the Commanders, but then in much the same way with the Packers losing, but the tougher loss being the loss of Tucker Kraft for the season. Commanders, another really tough loss in what's quickly becoming a lost season, but they lose Jaden Daniels. I'm not going to say for the season. I don't know for sure. But that was a gruesome injury, a dislocated elbow. They did a CAT scan. No broken bones. He still has to have the MRI to see if there's any ligament damage. But gruesome injury in what's been a very injury-plagued season for Jaden Daniels. And this was really the one concern because the Vikings obviously drafted J.J. McCarthy in that draft, so I did a lot of work going into that draft on that quarterback class. It's the most draft work that I've ever done in my time as just a diehard football sicko. Oh God, Marvin Harrison Jr. just running free, man. The Cowboys are just bad. They're just bad. That defense is so bad. It's I'm gonna need to do a wellness check on my buddy because it's it's bad, man. But I did a lot of work on that draft class. I did a lot of work on just quarterbacks in general. And I early in the process, I love Jaden Daniels, ton of college experience. And you always had the question of, well, he only had the one really good season. What's the reasoning for that? And then I did the deep dive on like the AI VR technology he was utilizing and how they had to like hack the VR system to speed it up because he had beaten the game basically. So I just felt like he's going to be able to come in. He's going to be able to adjust to the speed of the pro game a lot quicker. You love his athleticism, the experience. He can make all the throws. He's got the arm talent. But the one real concern was the injury history. He took a lot of shots in college and got a lot of injuries. Stayed pretty clean last year, but this year it's just been one thing after another. He gets injured, he misses a couple games, he comes back, immediately gets injured again, and then this injury looks like it might just knock him out for the season. It was rough for Jaden Daniels. So prayers up for Jaden Daniels. The Commanders, looks like it's gonna be a lost season for them. Hopefully he bounces back from the injury and comes back next year and can stay healthy and get back to doing what he was doing in his rookie year. But that's our recap. Week 9, another great week of NFL football in the books. Shouts out my boy, J.J. McCarthy, getting it done. This looks like it's going to be a Cardinals win. We got a 3rd and 5 here, 2 minutes, 40 seconds left in the third quarter. They got the ball in the red zone. Looked like a false start, not going to call it. Throws a little bit of a duck. No flags. Oh, there's the flag. As soon as I say no flags, here comes the flag. Have to assume this is going to be an automatic first down set up. I don't believe if it's a 5-yarder. I don't believe. Oh, there's a little bit of deliberation. There's no foul on the play, 4th down. So Cardinals probably going to set up a chip shot field goal here, go up 27-10. Just about 17 and a half minutes of game time left. That's why, because the ball was tipped at the line, so you can't have any illegal contact. Now they're showing highlights of when Charles Barkley raced Dick Bavetta at the All-Star game in 2007 and they ran a suicide, and then Charles tried to backpedal to the end. Charles looking good though. Got him on that Ozempic, it looks like. Cardinals field goal is good. They go up 27-10, 17 and a half minutes of game time left. See if the Cowboys can make a comeback. I doubt it. My analysis and recap of this game thus far would be Cowboys defense is god-awful. The Cardinals look better with Jacoby Brissett than they do with Kyler Murray. And just a bad season for Dallas, man. But that's our show. Nice tight 75 minutes and change here. Thank you for joining us. If you joined us live, thank you for tuning into the very first live show in Football Heads history, where we could celebrate the resurgence, the revival, the resurrection of my Minnesota Vikings, thanks to my boy, JJ McCarthy. And if you're tuning in after the fact, thank you for tuning in after the fact. As always, like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. I know it's cliche. And, most people say, I hate to ask. I don't hate to ask. You're sitting here watching. If you made it this far, like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend. Stay in tune with the channel. Should have a couple more episodes coming out this week. Like I said, we're going to do a mid-season playoff preview. We'll have the pick show as usual and take it from there. But as always, till next time, take it easy, football heads.